Okay, we are live once again. Let's get our Amazon thing going here. Yeah, so it's kind of a chill Monday, as I did the wrap-up yesterday, so I did a little weekend work, so I'm kind of ahead of the game. So I thought I would get started on the next computer that I want to review this week, and that is this one right here. We've got a PC also from Lenovo that's on deck, but this is a Chromebook that is powered by a Ryzen processor. So that intrigued me because I love Chromebooks and I love the Ryzen stuff, and this one's got both. And this is a like a Ryzen 3500. Let me check the Google Doc here on what this is. I can tell you what it's got for specs. And I'll probably drop this in the chat and pin it, because people always ask. Yeah, so this has a Ryzen 5 3500C. So let me write this out here. Ryzen 5 3500C, 8 gigs of RAM. I'm just going to type it out as a chat comment here, soldered. And 256 gigabyte SSD. And that's unusual to have that much storage on a Chromebook. And I think we're starting to see now like how the Chromebooks are becoming more in line with what you would get on a Windows laptop, because you can do more with them. So that's kind of the intriguing thing with this. And as Andre here says, and I'll pull up the chat room, looks like if your notifications just went out on Amazon, by the way, if you all are tuning in. It is an older chip, so this is not the 4000 series. But to be honest, I don't know if, well, we'll see. I think what I want to test today is, let's get it set up. We're going to get the Linux thing going on it. And I want to see if we can get the GPU to work on it. And then we'll kind of see if we can get any performance out of that. I'm a little tired today, too, for some reason. What happens is my children cannot go to sleep on their own. Like you got to sit with them until they fall asleep, and inevitably I fall asleep. So I fall asleep upstairs, and then I wake up at like 2 o'clock in the morning. I have no idea where I am, right? So then you're up. So I'm like, I got half a night's sleep. Michael Kidd is here. Romeric is here. Greg M is here. D. Johnson is here. Pastor J.C. Seward is here. It's an SSD in this one. This is an NVMe, by the way. So, yeah, there you go. And you can upgrade the NVMe, but not the RAM. So it's, it's interesting. So why don't we take it out of the box, and let's see what we got going on here, as they say. And if you're watching either on YouTube or Amazon and you have just general questions about Chromebooks, ask away, because I have been working with Chromebooks for a long time. This is a nice one because it's 13 inches, so it's not all that big. And it's going to look a lot like a ThinkPad will look like, because it is a ThinkPad Chromebook. So you got, the beefier specs. It's all metal, actually. It feels pretty nice. And port-wise, here, let's get the stuff out of the way here. Let's see what it has for power. I'm assuming it's USB-C powered. And we'll get the power adapter out here. And it is, USB-C. So these are full-service USB-C ports also. So port-wise, you've got your USB-C port here. I think both of them support display. I'll test that before the review. 2 USB 3 ports, a headphone microphone jack, an SD card slot. That's a speaker, it looks like. And it's nice. The speakers are side-mounted. I don't think I've seen side-mounted speakers before. This is the volume rocker. That's the power switch. You got HDMI. You've got another USB-C here, and then you've got a Kensington lock. And let's see what the keyboard looks like. Ooh. And this is, got the nub, nice deep travel keys, and it's coming up. I don't know if it's backlit, though. Usually these Chromebooks, or these ThinkPads are backlit. I don't think this one's got a backlit keyboard. So that's what it looks like. It's pretty nice, compact. It's 1080p. It's a Yoga, so you can flip it around and do all that stuff with it. I got to check on pen compatibility. Not fanless, but again, it's got the Ryzen on board. All right, so I'm going to go and get this thing set up on my temporary Google accounts. So we'll connect it up to Wi-Fi. We're going to probably have to do some updates on it. Toys Are for Boys, thank you very much for your super chat contribution. Much appreciated. I'm actually in the middle of working on the end credits for next month, so we're going to be updating everybody on that soon, or for this month. And I am going to be using this Chromebook. And right on schedule, my spam call from the warranty department for my car, right? I get this call all the time. Quake wants to know on, let's see. Oh, Angie Hughes is here. Hello. Hello, Angie. And then Quake is wondering on the Amazon chat. Be curious to see if there is a 8-thread needs 8 cores. Be curious to see. Oh, Chromebook. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to vary on what you're doing with the Chromebook. You know, one of the things that you can do with Chromebooks now is run Linux applications, and that's where those additional threads and cores might make sense, right, if you're installing Linux apps. And the keyboard is backlit. I see the lights lighting up here now. And I'm just going to log into my account here and get going. Then we have to do all the updates and all the other stuff on here. And we'll let that go through there. And let's see if I can keep up with the chat here. Now, Angie, your thumbnail is so small, but I think we met at some point. I'm trying to remember if it was at, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I know I think there was a thing in New York that I may have met you at, but I can't remember. Okay, so we're going to let this boot up here. And if we didn't, nice to see you in the chat, either way. All right, we're signed in, accept and continue. Oh, this, by the way, has a fingerprint reader. David's Devices is here, by the way, on Amazon. This has a fingerprint reader, which is something you don't typically see on Chromebooks, at least I haven't seen. So that is good to see. So let's get my fingerprint dialed in here. Because my daughter's Chromebook does not have a fingerprint reader. And yeah, she's okay, but you know, it's hard to get, sometimes it's hard for them to get into the Chromebook because they have to type the password in. And for a little kid, a more secure password is often a little bit more difficult. Oh, Mark, we didn't do the magazine opening just yet, so that's still coming up. I was going to do it, and there was just, I could not get down here to do it. And then I was going to do it yesterday, and then I interviewed my brother for a follow-up on the Starlink thing, so I did that instead. So we are going to do a magazine opening sometime this week. And then also, and by the way, here's the problem with the magazine opening. I know what's in it because my wife opened it. So I will make it a surprise to all of you. And I don't know exactly which edition of the magazine it is, but I did see the cover. So I don't know exactly how old it is. But my wife was going through all the packages, and she's like, I think she saw the envelope and said, "What is this black envelope? What's in, you know, like it looks like an envelope that might come with an inappropriate magazine," which it's not. It's a video game magazine. It's all on the up and up. And for those of you that have no idea what I'm talking about, I subscribe to the Video Game History Foundation. Has a huge archive of extra video game magazines, and they mail me one once. I paid for this little donation subscription thing. So they mail me an old gaming magazine once a month, and we're going to do live streams taking them out of the envelope. You don't know what you're getting because it's like a blind box thing. And the one we did last month was great because it was a good addition. Yeah, and what's funny about this is that they use that Shopify thing, and so when I put my address in, the address went in incorrectly. So now, like, they send it to the wrong place in town. But I live in a small town, so the post office knows where I live because I probably get more packages than anybody else out of that post office. So they manually see it and they change the address. So the mailman was here the other day and he's like, "Yeah, you got to tell him to fix the address on this thing." I said, I know. And I said, "Just for the record, this is not a porno." And he's like, "I know, it says video game on it." Because he looked. He's like, "Yeah, it says video game on it. I know it's not that." So that's the question. By the way, there's no pen on this one. Some people were asking about pens. There is not a pen that I can see on here. Sometimes they have like a, oh yeah, there is a pen. I'm sorry. Yep, right here. Look at that. It missed that completely. Hang on, let me show you. So there's a pen. This is a nice Chromebook. Oh, uh-oh. What is this? This might not be a pen. I thought there was a pen in here. Well, there's a spacer. There's a spacer where a pen should be. Look at that. What is this? Did the pen fall out maybe? No, there's no pen in there at all. So this is like a spacer for a pen. Boy, that's weird. I got to write to them about this to see if maybe there's a pen stuck in there. I don't see a pen in there. So there's the garage for the pen, but no pen. And there's like there's a metal contact in there too. So I need to check in with them on, I'm guessing this one didn't come with a pen. Or wasn't supposed to. We'll have to see what happens here. All right, so let me just get into this thing, and we got to update it and do all that, and then we'll go from there. Yeah, so these have become, you know, Chromebooks have become a lot more than just a web browser, because they, you know, they run Linux apps, they run Android apps, and as the computers have gotten more powerful, the Chromebook performance has gotten better too. So that's what it is. And it looks like it supports the USI standard. I may have a USI pen kicking around here too. So we will check it out. And let's see, David says that they sent me, yeah, I usually ask them to send me the least expensive one that they have, but they don't always have the least expensive one available. By the way, this is on loan, so when I'm done with this, it goes back to them. But yeah, they do every year make a Chromebook ThinkPad. And it feels a lot like a Chromebook, and it's all metal. This is a nice one. And you know, for a while it was hard to justify the cost of one of these really expensive Chromebooks, because it was like, what can you do with it, right? But now you can do a lot more with them. But I do have to ask them about the pen, because like, it's just kind of weird that you'd have this nub, like this piece of plastic in here that comes out, but there's nothing on the other end of it. I mean, it's definitely like a protector, but that was weird. And this is the C13. Actually, it feels pretty nice. I like the build quality on it. And that's what you pay extra for with the ThinkPad stuff, is you get some nicer hardware. Although I'll say their idea pads have been getting a lot nicer. So it's, you know, just overall they have really good build quality. All right, so we're just going through the motions here. What it's doing now is that I have like a test account that I use for my Chromebook reviews. And so what it's doing right now is it's going in and like syncing up all of my Android apps that I have installed, which is kind of helpful because I don't have to do anything beyond turning the computer on. A lot of, it's funny, a lot of the time spent reviewing the PCs is actually just installing the software. So it's kind of nice to have everything kind of ready to go when we get going here. You just have to wait it out for all the stuff to download. And then we're going to plug in our power supply. And it's just a USB-C power supply on this one. And then tonight we're going to have an update on the Starlink stuff. David's Devices on Amazon says, I love the ThinkPad lineup, especially the X1. I have both the 6th gen and the 8th gen Carbon series. Yeah, they're super lightweight. This one has got just like a regular aluminum casing, so it's a little bit heavier, but it's still pretty lightweight and compact. And it's downloading Goat Simulator right now as well. And let me go into the... And I could attach my Ethernet here and speed this up, but I think it's going at a pretty good clip. And let's go to About Chrome OS, and let's check for updates. And it just takes a few minutes to get everything downloaded to it. So Brian brings up a point about a machine that he just bought or returned, had a ThinkPad C13. Yeah, you know, the issue with the 4K displays on the laptops is that they are not good for battery longevity, for sure. So, you know, that is definitely an issue, and that's not just with, you know, with any brand for that matter. So that's something that if you want battery life, you do not want a 4K display. And we'll wait for this thing to finish updating. And that's been a big part of our testing, is just waiting for things to update, getting the updates in and everything else. And Mark Dell, there's been some talk about Node.js and VS Code. I got to get into more coding stuff. I just wish I had more time to play around with it, because there's so many things that I would love to code that I just can't get to. But that's one of the nice things about these Chromebooks now, is that they run a lot of this stuff, because once you get the Linux thing going, you're good to go. All right, so now what's happened here is that it has an update for us, and that's going to execute once we reboot. But what I want to do here is just kind of wait for all the other apps to install. And it looks like it got everything. So let's do a restart. The fan is going here. I'm definitely hearing the fan running. Mark Smith wants to know, is there a 2K? I don't know if there are many, to be honest with you. We just looked at, the other day, we just looked at the HP NV14, and that one was kind of nice because it has a GPU, but you know, it can turn it off and just rely on the Intel graphics, and the battery life on that one was very good. It was a 1920 by 1080, a 1920 by 1200 display, a 16 by 10. But I thought that one was a nice balance. The MacBooks are great. I got the MacBook Air with the M1 processor. That is really good. And then David here. Whoops, I just took your thing off. David Rakowski makes a very good point. Yeah, I think that's a very good point. So, for example, this one has a 1080p display. And you'd be hard-pressed to really say, well, that's a really poor resolution. It looks fine. It's nice and sharp. When you've got a screen this small, remember, when you're running 1080p at 13 inches, you have a pretty high pixel density, because you could buy a TV. It's like 45 inches that's 1080p, right? So you're taking the same number of pixels, and you're sticking it on a screen that is much smaller. And so, you know, 1080p on a 13-inch looks fine. I would say, you know, on a 15 or a 16, you might want a little bit more. You know, I think Apple has a good balance with that, so I would say that's a good way to go. Yeah, Mark, I should hit you up on something with the coding. I could try to install it, and just let me know what command you want me to type in, and I will do that in a minute or two. I think somebody typed in a command somewhere down the line there. Okay, just did a, oh no, that's something different. So I'm happy to look for it. I'm pretty sure it'll run. I found with this that, you know, most of the Ubuntu packages just install on it, so usually it's good to go. All right, so now what we need to do, let me get the, I'm going to get the display hooked up so you can follow along a little bit closer, so you're not all squinting at the screen here. So I'm just going to plug in some HDMI here and dial in my NDI box. We'll just mirror the output. So I don't think that'll impact performance all that much. All right. And we'll just wait for it to come up on screen here. Let's go over to, there we go. I'm getting my haircut tonight, everybody. I told you some of my friends of ours, she started a house call haircut thing. So she comes and cuts your hair. So she's coming at 5:30. So we'll stick around to about 3:30 or so, and then I'll get the wrap-up uploaded and then get ready for my haircut. Okay, so let us go over to, and I think what I'm going to do here is mirror the screen. So we'll get that going. Displays, and we'll mirror. There we go. Okay, so we got that going. And what are we at here? Just want to make sure we're at the right resolution. Huh, I can't see where to set the resolution here for some reason. Let's go back one notch here. I'm assuming it's running at 1080p. Let's take a look. Yeah, it looks about right. Okay. So now we're going to go down to the bottom of the list here. And where did it go? Linux beta. And we're going to turn that on. And I'm going to give it a little bit more space. We have a lot of space on this one, so I'm going to dedicate. I haven't seen it actually dedicate disk size, but I guess you can modify it later. So I'm assuming that this is kind of like a floating thing. And what it's doing right now is installing. Yeah, Quake says, "COVID Nation, today I get a haircut." I know. So what it's going to do now is install the Linux container on here. And we'll let that do its thing. And Mark gave me a link to follow for this. Okay, so this might be something I got to figure out how to access inside of the Linux side of this machine. So that's the tricky part. And Mark Dell enjoys teaching coding. Yeah, I think what I got to do is I have some things that I want to do, and maybe that might be helpful, is to kind of figure that out. All right, so now we have Linux running here, and you get like, a command line initially. And then I could start installing stuff. So the first thing I like to do is do a little sudo apt-get update. And it's going to download all of the package update, the list of updates and stuff that's available. And then we'll go apt-get upgrade, and that's going to do all of our updates. And I like to install like LibreOffice and a few like examples just to show how the Linux stuff works. And this is where I think Chromebooks are really neat, is that you've got this whole, I would venture to say for a consumer, these things represent a really cool way to start exploring Linux in a safe way, in that you really can't break anything and it's pretty secure because this runs in an isolated container. So you don't have a real performance hit by doing this stuff. Yeah, I wonder if this thing is running. I wonder what resolution this is running at. I can't tell. Oh, it's running at 720p. We got to fix that. So give me a second here. That's why I was trying to see what the secondary display was running at. So let's go back to device, displays, display size. So that's like the scaling, but how do I set this? Let's turn that off for a second. Built-in display. Okay, I'm going to set the encoder to 1080p here. That's what I got to do. And then, so I'll do that, and there we go. So let's confirm that, because that's going to work. Perfect. Okay, so now if I mirror, so what's this one running at? Oh, I see, this one's scaled. So I'm just going to go run it at the native 1080p. There we go. And now I'm going to mirror it. That was what was confusing me. Okay, so now, if I go to my system here, yeah, now we're at 1080p. Okay, much better. There we go. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, we're just going to install LibreOffice. And that's the only unfortunate thing. A lot of what you do with Linux on the Chromebook is you've got to get into the command line to get some of the apps installed. But once you get them in there, it's good. Yeah, that's one of the, I think one of the Yeah, okay, so yeah, there's some, here's what happened with the Flow, oops, wrong button. Here's what happened with the Flowbee. I have the Flowbee still, it's sitting over there. I never actually did the Flowbee because I was intending to, and then what happened is our friend started the haircutting business. And I said, you know what, this is so much safer to have her do it. And I think now, because so many people are like, I think a lot of people have gotten used to the idea of going to get their haircut now, that the Flowbee's kind of lost some of the pizzazz. What I did though, here's what I did do. Because remember when, you know, that whole thing with, what's his name, the actor. I love this guy, what's his name? You know who I'm talking about, the actor. Who's the actor? Why am I blanking on his name right now? George Clooney. Sorry, I just spaced out for a minute. George Clooney announced that he was using the Flowbee. I reached out to his publicist to see if I could get him to come on and guide me through the use of the Flowbee, but they turned me down. So, but here's the thing. You know, for every time you ask, there's a chance that you'll get a rejection. Most of the time you'll get a rejection, but every once in a while, like who knows, they could have said yes and it would have been an awesome live stream, right? So you just ask and see what happens. But yeah, so I still have the Flowbee. I haven't gotten around to using it, again, primarily because I've got somebody that can come here and cut my hair. But yeah, George Clooney does the Flowbee. It was an interview. If you look it up on YouTube, it's actually a pretty funny interview. All right, so what's happening now is I told the Linux command line here to install LibreOffice, which is a Office suite, and that runs natively on the Chromebook itself, inside of the Linux container. So you can boot up a Microsoft Office equivalent and have it all run locally, so you don't even need an internet connection to use it. It's pretty cool. And we're just going to let that finish installing. So you issue one command, and then it goes and downloads all the different things it needs to make that work. And that's what it's doing here. And you think about all the work that goes into the packages and the dependencies and all the other stuff, it's really pretty remarkable how all this stuff works and how it's all maintained by these open source projects. All right, so we're just going to let that finish up. And so I just like to demo this kind of stuff. And Travis says it's probably best that, yeah, I have a feeling, like I can't even shave properly, so I would imagine like the Flowbee would not go very well. Thomas Hendricks enjoyed the maple syrup. Awesome. I am glad you liked it. It's a very unique taste that he's developed. It's really good. My daughters love it. We buy it by the gallon from him because my 7-year-old, like every morning we have frozen pancakes that I nuke and some syrup, and that's her breakfast. She loves that. Michael Kidd has been cutting his own hair since February of 2020. He's done the mohawk. Yeah, it's tough. It is tough. And you know what I really just want to help my friend out because like I love people that take the initiative, right? So here's her story. She was working for Supercuts, doing, you know, and they pay like just by the hour, right? So you know she was doing okay with that, but she had to drive up to half-hour away to go work at the retail thing there. She had to have all her own clippers and everything else, and you're paid hourly and then tips, right? So okay, it works. But when this whole thing happened and she wants to spend more time with her kids and she wanted a more flexible schedule, and she said, you know what, let me just put this out there and see if anybody would be interested in having me come. And at the time it was, she would come to your house and cut your hair outside, which was even better. So we did the kids outside and she was here, and I was intending on doing this whole big Flowbee thing. And then I was like, you know what, she's here, there's a chair, I could sit down in this chair and get my hair cut right now. And I had gone probably about longer than I had gone in a long time without a haircut. So I said, you know what, just let's just do it. David says I could practice the Flowbee on the kids. They hate the vacuum cleaner right out of the gate, so I don't know if the Flowbee's going to go very well. But no, it's been great, and she's busy. She's really busy. She does men and women, so she does barbershop kind of haircuts for me, but she does like full colorings and all all the stuff that a salon would do. And she comes to you to do it, and it costs a little bit more, but she's doing well. I mean, she's not making $1 million, but she's doing better than she was at Supercuts. And it's all just word of mouth. She put a thing out on the local Facebook group saying, hey, I can come to you and cut your hair safely outside, and it's working great. So that's been good. I got a barber that I usually go to. So once things settle down a bit, I'll give him some business again. But it's I like to be safe, right? And if I think it's like more, I look at the responsibility right now of all of us is to cut down on transmission. Even if you're not concerned for your own safety, you just don't want to be spreading it all over the place, because every time it gets into somebody and reproduces, there's evolutionary pressure, right? So you want to just be safe. So that's the safest thing to do. And what I do is I double mask, and I have ear loop masks. So everyone, towards the end, she'll unloop me, and I'll just hold it to my face so she can get the sideburns and stuff. But it's good. It works out great. So today what we're going to do, because it's like cold and snowy outside, so what I've got in the basement over there is I've got a door that I can open and then get some garage door and get the airflow going, so it'll be pretty safe. I'm a nut with this stuff, in case you're wondering. Scott Pitton is asking, can I address the differences between this Chromebook and the equivalent Apple product, price and performance? Yeah, so that's the big question, right? Like, and I think, for a while it was tough because the Apple stuff was good, but it wasn't any faster. I would say that I would say with certainty that the MacBook Air, which costs a little bit more than this one does, will perform better. It's quiet, it's fanless, and you get better battery life out of the MacBook. No question about it. So I think if you care about battery life, if you like high performance, and you want something silent, the Apple is a really good deal right now. The MacBook Air, that's what I have here on the desk, by the way. This is my MacBook Air. And honestly, I was expecting this to just kind of replace an old 12-inch MacBook that I keep here on the desk. This MacBook Air has essentially become my daily driver Mac. Like, I use this now as much as I use my MacBook Pro that I bought 5 years ago. I have a secondary office upstairs that I use for my evening meetings and stuff, and I plug it into a widescreen display. It is so fast. What's crazy is if I plug my MacBook Pro into the display upstairs, the fan is going. It's constantly going nuts. I plug this thing in, silent. One cable, Thunderbolt, boom. And I've got my dock up. I mean, it's just so, if you don't care about the operating system and you're looking to spend $1,000 to $1,200, the MacBook Air is amazing. The new one with the M1 chip. It's really good. And what's funny is that there's obviously there's I want to say there's like almost a religious fervor for different platforms, but I think there's universal agreement that Apple's got a real innovative processor on their hands with this thing. The performance on it is outstanding, and it's giving you that performance with very low power consumption and great battery life. So there's not much to complain about unless you don't like Macs. So what I've been saying to folks is that if you're in the market for something and you don't mind owning a Mac, the MacBook Air is a revolutionary PC. Even though it looks exactly the same as the old one, it's a fantastic product, and I've been really happy with mine. But it really depends on what you're doing. I like Chromebooks a lot too, because my daughter's school uses Chromebooks, and so my daughter uses a Pixelbook Go that we reviewed a while back when she has to do remote learning. Thankfully, she's been in school more now than she's been out of school. But on the remote learning days, the Chromebooks are great. And what I like about Chromebooks is that there's nothing to back up. Unless you're doing the Linux stuff, you got to think about how to back that up. But for the most part, when you're using a Chromebook, it's just constantly in sync with the Google Cloud. You've got to be on the Google Cloud, so that might be an impediment for some folks. But they're great machines because it's almost like a dumb terminal. So, when I log into my daughter's Chromebook, my Google account is exactly where I left it on all my other devices. Everything is just always in sync. So it's really, pretty seamless. And so, like, my mother, I bought a Chromebook for because she doesn't do anything but browse the web. And I'm trying to cut down on tech support calls. So I got Mom a Chromebook. And Mom still calls me. And she calls me and says, you don't call me enough. But she's not calling me about technical problems. So that's been really helpful. My father has a Mac. I'm getting calls all the time. Where did this file go? I can't find what I'm looking for. Da, 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 da. You know, like a lot of little things like that. So Chromebooks have a real place, and I think it's a place of simplicity. And so that's one reason to consider that. All right, so now what I need to do, bear with me, folks, because my intent of today was to see if we can make use of the Ryzen processor on here. And let me go into my notes on that. I got to share a document with myself because I've got some commands that I want to copy and paste in. So Scott, I hope that answers your question. Let me know if I answered it appropriately or not. Like if you're computer savvy and you want the best battery life and performance with a fanless laptop, nothing better than the Mac right now. That's going to change, but man, the Mac is amazing. Like I am so happy with this Mac. I was actually thinking about like moving more towards the Windows side of things, and they pulled me back in with the M1 chip because I run Windows for my production system here. This is all Windows. And then my gaming stuff, and I review a lot of Windows laptops. So I really appreciate how good Windows has become, and the stability of Windows has gotten much better, in my opinion, over the last couple of years. Because that was part of what attracted me to the Mac, was that it was just so stable. But now, like Windows is really good. But I'll tell you what, Apple really, like the M1 chips are just, just really good. All right, so I'm going to share this document with myself. This is, I'll do that one there. All right, and I'm going to send that to myself. So I've got a couple of commands. What I'm going to do is install Steam on here. And we're also going to enable the GPU on this thing too. So let me go. Oh, I got some old stuff on here. What is that video from? Here we go. I got so much junk in this account. This is like my test account, so it's just constantly... So I have notes here for enabling different things. So part of this Linux thing is that they've been in beta for like 2 years on this. So if you want the GPU, which is basically built into the processor here to work, you've got to go in and enable the GPU support. So we're going to enable it, and then we got to restart. And then after we restart, we're going to install Steam and see if we can get that working. And Toka, somebody named Toka wants me to say hi to them, so hello there. Quake wants to know, I haven't been super up on these. Can you use Chrome on a stick to do all this with a standard Windows computer? Like boot it off a stick? So there is a Chrome stick out there. I don't think they've updated it in a number of years, but I did review one from Asus, if that's what you're asking. I believe you can install, it's not like the official Chrome OS, but there are Chromium OS, which is the open source version of this OS that I think you can install on a computer that would otherwise run Windows. All right, so we got this up. And now we're going to go back to the Linux terminal. I think it's Control-T. How do I get that terminal up again? Yeah, let's go and grab it through the start menu here. And where is my terminal thing? Linux apps. I think it's up at the top. I keep forgetting where I install everything. And what happens is as I keep testing these things, there's more and more apps that I keep loading onto these computers, so things get lost in the shuffle. Where did my command prompt go? There it is, Linux apps. And what's nice too is it puts all your Linux apps in one spot. So you've got that pretty handy. I got to say, the virtual machine or the container for Linux boots up a lot quicker than it used to. And I'm just going to go back to my Google Doc here. And we're going to grab a couple of commands that we've got to put in place here. So I grabbed this off of a website here. So to install Steam, we've got to type this in. So what it has to do is get another package repository. Right click, there we go. Oh, what happened here? HTTP. I think I typed something in incorrectly here. What is the... Well, that didn't work. All right, let's go and do another search here. It looks like whatever I had for notes here. Oh, wait a minute. I see what I did wrong. Echo. I forgot to do the echo part. There we go. And we'll just go ahead and paste that in. Let's use directory. All right, that didn't work. All right, what did I do wrong here? Let me see if it can get it without that extra stuff there. So what happens is they change things, and so a lot of times something that worked one way stops working that way, and you have to go find an updated blog post somewhere. We'll do a little research in a second here, see if we can find the command for that. But some of you might comment with better ideas as to how we can get that going. Edit action option. Yeah, this is all not working. Okay, so let's go back and see what we get here. And yeah, I think, by the way, Mark Dell makes a good point here about Windows. If you want to run Windows, the Mac is not going to work for you. It's getting there on running Windows, but it's not as good as it was with the Intel chips. And the Windows it's going to run is going to be the ARM version of Windows, which is a little different. All right, so let's do a quick search here for Steam on a Chromebook. And I've gotten this to work before. I just got to find the right post to make it work. So let's do Steam Chromebook. Steam on a Chromebook, how to install. We'll go to the Android Authority here and see if they can help us out. All right, is your Chromebook powerful enough? Yes. All right, so I think this is what I found earlier. We're not going to do Steam Link. We're going to do the full Linux deal. So yeah, see, this is the command that it's telling me to use, but that one is not working. So let's try that one more time and see if I just got it wrong. Type this command and press Enter. So we're going to delete that. Yeah, it says Etsy's a directory. Oh, you know what? No, see, it's just not working. All right, let's try to find another post with an example as to how to do that. Let's see. All right, what am I looking at here? Steam Chromebook. Let's try the command here and see if we get a better. See, Android Authority, like that article seems to be the one that everyone points it at. LifeWire has a more up-to-date article here, so let's try this and see. All right, so they're taking us through the whole thing. All right, so this one looks like it might be a little better, so let's try that one. All right, so I did that, but nothing happened. Echo. And then it's bringing us back to this. Yeah, nothing's happening here. I'm not sure exactly what's supposed to happen. All right, let's try it and see what happens. Sudo apt-get update. Super chat from Living2Live619. I have not tried Linux on the M1 yet. But I think it's working. I think it's working now. I'll have to double check on that. That might be a good video to do in the upcoming kind of thing. Okay. All right. So there was another question about a fanless desktop, or laptop or desktop. That's a tough one. Any of the Y series Intel processors will work okay fanless, but it's the performance on those is all over the place because they constantly have to throttle to keep the heat under control. And now we're going to install Steam here. So we're going to type sudo app install Steam. Let's see if it grabs that. Yeah, there we go. Okay. And now it's going to download that. And then we'll kind of take it from there. So I haven't looked at a fanless PC that's got decent performance recently. So we'll have to check that out. We got more super chats coming in. Yeah, so sorry, Living to Live, that I don't have an answer on the Linux side. I think it's going to actually run that stuff pretty well, but it's going to be the ARM version of Linux because that's what it's running. Grayson Petty, thank you for the super chat. Instead of using Echo, open up Etsy source list. Oh, right, I could paste the... All right, next time I'm going to do that. It looks like we've got the Steam thing coming in, but I do appreciate that tip. I'm going to make a note and copy and paste your thing into the document there. Let's see, I'm just looking through some more comments here. All right. So now we're going to hit OK here, and I'm going to agree to these things, whatever I just agreed to, and it's going to go grab the rest of the dependencies. Now, what's cool about the way Steam works is that if you have games that you've purchased, as I have, that are available on Linux, you get those for free, basically. Basically, whatever you bought on Windows is available on Steam or on Linux, which is a good deal. All right. And we're just going through the rest of the installation here. Let that kind of do its thing. And Mark Dell has an answer. The Surface Pro X. And that one's running with, I think that's an ARM-based machine, right, Mark Dell? I think that's that way. Okay. So now we've got Steam installed, and if we go back here, you'll see it now down here at the bottom. And check it out. It will boot right up most of the time. It's going to close out the command line here, because we're not going to need that. I'm going to close out our browser session too. And I think it's running. We'll see. Let's take a look. Sometimes on like the first boot, it takes a little bit to come up. Let me hit it again here and see if we can get it to load. It is installed, so that's a good step. And I'll give it a second here just to do whatever the heck it's doing. So Mark Dell does not like his Surface Pro X. And I think that's the one thing that you're going to see a lot of movement this year is, and it all comes down to how much market share Apple's going to take from the competing chip manufacturers out there. I'm going to reboot the Chromebook here. By the way, you want to see how fast a Chromebook boots? Gotta wait for it to turn off. Okay, it is. Fan's coming off. The fan on this is running a lot. And I'm just waiting for the little light here on the side to go out, and then I'll reboot it. There it goes. Okay, ready? So we're going to turn it on. Power's on. And we are up, just like that. Now I want to see if the fingerprint will work. So I think you have to log in with the fingerprint when you first boot it up, and then after that, you don't need the fingerprint anymore. Or you don't need the password anymore. So if I were to put it to sleep, it would then come back with that. Okay. So let us try to get Steam loaded up here again. Steam usually works on these, so it's kind of funny that this is... There it goes. Now it's doing something. So it is going to load up the container, and you'll see on the bottom of the screen, you see that little Steam thing kind of rolling around down there. And then it's going to pop up. There it goes. I'll let that come up here. How's the video looking, everybody? I'm getting a couple of warnings on YouTube telling me that my stream's current bit rate is lower than the recommended. Let me open this widget up here real quick. So it's telling me that my bit rate is lower than, oh, I see. I think what's happening is that whenever I switch to this screen, it's not transmitting as much data because it doesn't need to. I think that's what the warning I'm getting. The reason why I'm concerned about that, I just want to make sure the stream is working, is that I am in the middle of getting, I'm doing more to my home network. My home network was working fine, but I needed more high-speed multi-gigabit ports. So a friend of mine sold me a aggregation switch, a Unify aggregation switch that has, I think like 14 10 gigabit SFP plus ports. So I'm using that now as kind of like the backbone of my network. The problem though is that the dumb switch that I have that does the 10 gigabit stuff, I have it connected with a direct attached copper cable, the same cable I was using with that switch before. For whatever reason, when the dumb switch, the 10 gigabit dumb switch is going through the aggregation switch, my downloads like max out at 600 megabits, but the uploads go the full 2 up through the internet. And I don't know what the heck's going on. So I've got a bunch of modules coming in later this evening that I'm going to play around with. But I'm now like, so this computer that I'm broadcasting from is plugged directly into the aggregation switch, which is a different port than it was before. All right, we're just waiting for Steam to finish doing its thing. Now we should see the Steam interface here pop up in a minute, I'm assuming. And there it goes. Perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to log into my Steam account. Now you can't run this, and by the way, the mouse disappears when it goes into the middle of that thing. You can't run this on an ARM-based Chromebook. Yeah, my mouse disappears whenever it goes over that Steam window. That's going to be a problem. All right, I just got to get my Steam code typed in. So because this is an x64-based machine, that's why we're able to get this to work. All right, so now, we'll go over here to finish. See what happens? Like when the mouse goes, here, watch. When the mouse goes over the Steam window, it disappears. And I've got to look and see where it goes. So that's a problem. That's a big problem. I can't see the mouse. I can't see the mouse anywhere. All right, let's go to my library. Always these little things. I've got like a block here now. So I have something that resembles a mouse pointer, so that maybe is a little bit more helpful. All right, so now if memory serves, I think, here, we'll do Rocket League first, because I know that runs fairly well on this chipset. So we'll go ahead and download that real quick. And we'll click on Install. By the way, this supports Wi-Fi 6, so we do have a fairly fast Wi-Fi connection. I could connect it to my Ethernet, but the cable's upstairs, long story. All right, so let's install this, and we're just going to put it on. Wow, it takes 10 gigabytes, huh? I think I clicked next. I don't know what I just clicked. No, I just clicked out off of it. All right, let me just tab over. There we go. Let's tab next. Agree. And now it's going to create the local game files and download that thing. So we're sacrificing a couple of megabits here, but nothing substantial. So let's see what we can download at. And I guess this game is now free, and they want you to download it from Epic, right? But I don't think there's an Epic Linux store. And it's going to take about, how long is it going to take? It says about 12 minutes, but I think it'll speed up as we start going here. So we're downloading right now at about 20 megabytes per second. Yeah, it's going to go a lot quicker here, so we'll have this downloaded pretty soon. I will say, though, I'm hearing a lot of fan noise on it. It's not loud, but if you don't like fan noise, you may not like... All right, so we'll let that download. And we're pushing about 25 megabytes per second over the Wi-Fi. So the big question would be whether or not we can take advantage of the GPU. We did enable that GPU setting, so I think it should work, but we'll put it to the test and see what we're going to get. And I got about another half hour, then I got to go get ready to upload tonight's video. Grayson wants to know, does this have a touch screen? It does. Actually, that's a good point. I could have used the touch interface to interact with it. So it does have a touch screen. So I can do that. Yeah, and this is actually a 2-in-1, so it would totally do that. Yeah, Mark makes a good point here too. It's like, it's one of those random problems when you're doing something they don't intend for you to do. But there's been a bunch of rumors that Valve was going to be moving Steam over to Chromebooks. So I'm not sure when that's happening, but it's been talked about for a while. So we'll have to see exactly when that all comes together. All right, we're just waiting on the install here. The download is slowed down a little bit. We've got another 9 minutes now, huh? But we got to wait it out. All right, so let's see what else we got in the chat here. Some discussion about RISC processors. Yeah, I remember, it's never quite fizzled out as people were saying in the chat. It kind of comes and goes, right? So ARM, of course, is all RISC-based. And, the ARM chips kind of developed in around the same time that Apple switched to the PowerPC processors on the Power Macs. And that was a big deal when they did that, because that was a huge architectural shift for them. They went from the Motorola 68000 chips, which was a CISC-based, complex instruction set chip, to a reduced instruction set chip. And then they migrated over from that 68000 architecture to PowerPC, and they had to write an emulator so that the PowerPC Macs could run the older software. And they did the same thing when they went to Intel. And then when they went to Intel, they had the Intel machines run the PowerPC software. And then they had to do now the same for the M1 Mac. So it's kind of, they're very good at switching their architecture like that. It's amazing. Mark Dell says, remember the Steam PCs? Yeah, we reviewed one. They had a neat partnership with Alienware and Dell. We reviewed that. It was a nice compact PC. It had a custom NVIDIA GPU. It was a nice computer. I just think they had a hard time. They had a really hard time with the library. I think that was really what killed it, because the titles that were, I think if they were trying to compete with game consoles, but the problem was that all of the PC titles that were available for console and PC were not available on Linux, and I think that was the big problem. If they had focused a little bit on getting a Windows translation layer, I think that would have helped, but that was a big issue. And Kevin Douglas, yeah, it does decompress the files, so that does impact things a bit. And this is not, even though it's got a nice Ryzen chip on here, this is the older Ryzen, and for this kind of activity, which is more CPU reliant, it may not be all that speedy, even if I did hook the Ethernet up. But we got some time. It's almost done, another 5 minutes or so. And TrafficSet makes a good point also. Yeah, these days it's really a matter of what you do with it. And I think what Apple's done with the M1 is a great example, that if you design the chip for what people are doing with it, you can really get a lot of performance out of it. That's right, it was the Alienware Alpha. And what was cool about that machine was that it was easy enough just to install Windows. So actually what we did with it was we did the review of how it worked as a Steam device, and then we installed Windows on it. So you could get, so like, the hardware wasn't a total flop because it would run Windows, but that was not the intent, I think. But that was a great machine. I really liked that computer. It was nice and compact. If it had a faster GPU, it would have been awesome. All right, we're just waiting on the rest of this thing to come in here. We're about another 5 minutes. So I don't believe I got to Quake's question, like booting Chrome off of a stick. I think there is a Chrome. Let's see if there's a way we can do that. Yeah, there's a bunch of articles on here about getting Chromium OS to boot from a stick. So you can do that. There's an article on Fossmint about it. Yes, there's actually a bootable build of Chromium OS. But you have to go find it from a source that gives you a bootable version. Arnold the Bat is one that you can find it from. And TechMint, well, that's just a location. You know, Arnold the, you do a search for Fossmint, you'll find it there. All right, so now, this is almost there. It's only doing about 14 megs a second right now. How's the weather where you are? Lewis wants to know, what do I think about Chrome OS on Snapdragon processors? I don't think there are many that run with Snapdragons, are there? You know which one I like is that Chromebook Duo from Lenovo. It's pretty nice. Jeff is asking about the keyboard backlight. No, there is actually a keyboard backlight on here. I missed it. I didn't see a keyboard command to turn it off, but the keys are definitely lighting up, so it definitely has a backlight. And Patrick wants to know, is it fanless? No, it is not fanless. CVL has an Alienware Alpha still in use for emulation. Yeah, great for that. I've been following what some of the people have been doing with the Xbox Series S, which is apparently a very good little emulation box too. So Lewis, on the Acer one, send me a link to it when it comes out, because I can try to get one in, because I think it'd be fun to, I really like Chromebooks a lot, because a lot of channels don't cover them, and I think they're very useful. Especially the low-cost ones. There's a lot of you could get for a couple $100 or less a really good Chromebook that is very functional. You know, $200 gets you a nice Chromebook these days. Yes, we're supposed to be getting snow and rain and ice and who knows what else up here in Connecticut. We'll have to check in with my brother and see. My brother with the Starlink, we'll have an interview with him up tonight. And he's been having a good run with that Starlink. He had a couple of snowstorms now. He's had like 4 to 5 inches of snow. It's been working fine. So you'll get to hear from him. We're going to interview him over Starlink, you know, with his video chat. So it'll be kind of fun. Britt Allen wants to know, is there any Chromebook under $100? Occasionally you'll see them pop up. You know, the kind of no-name brand Chromebooks. I've seen them for like $150. I can check Amazon and see what's available right now. Yes, so there's an HP Chromebook 14 for $211. Let's see if I can find, let me sort this by 0 to 120, let's say. Okay, so, and these are older ones. There's a Lenovo Chromebook N22 on Amazon for $120 right now. But you got to be careful because there's a lifespan to the support on these things. And so like after 6 years, so for example, my mother has the Asus Chromebook C something or other, and it hit the end of support date. So the Chromebook still works, but it's not getting updated, like no updates at all. So all the security updates, nothing. It's like cut off. It still works, but there's no updates. And they've been getting better about that. So I should check this one here. I have a special link here. If you go to Lon.TV/Chromebook EOL, I've got a long list of well, it's Google's thing. They have a long list of Chromebooks. And so, for example, this one, the C13 Yoga Chromebook, is good until June of 2029, as far as its update's concerned. So that's a good long time here. June of 2029. What is that? That is 6-7 years? So they've been getting better about that lifespan. Yeah, listen, Dallas, looking for the cheaper machines is much more fun than the expensive ones. I agree with that, because that's bargain hunting, and you can often get a good deal. Patrick wants to know, is there any Chromebook running AMD processors, Athlon or Ryzen that are fanless? I don't think so. I don't think I've ever seen a fanless Ryzen anything. Even the mini PCs have fans. Anyone notice the blockiness when looking at Lon's reflection from a laptop screen? That's interesting. It must be the compression that's doing that? I should look at that on the stream here. All right, I think we're done. Okay, so let's go ahead and boot this game up here, if I can find the mouse again. Let's see. Yeah, you can see. There we go, play. And then I got to run in about 20 or 30 minutes or so. Now remember, we're running this in Linux on a Chromebook with a Ryzen processor. So let's see what happens here. And it's loading, in case you're wondering. And I expect it to load for a while. And sometimes it doesn't load at all, so we'll have to see what happens. We're just going to let it kind of hang out here and see what we get. But this is why I spend a lot of time in between videos testing stuff to see what works and what doesn't. And that's what's fun about doing the live streams, is that you can see the workflow here that we go through when we're testing things. A lot goes on here when we're not shooting videos. And that's the pressure, because I try to do like 3 or 4 videos a week. So if I get tied up with something, it gets tricky. So I usually have Jake do all the PC reviews, but the Chromebooks I usually do myself, just because I'm still trying to figure out a regular workflow to them. Mark Dell wants to know, could you put the laptop in? Yeah, we could definitely do that. That would work. I should try that in a little bit. Stewie May says, probably a silly question, but is it hard to install a Linux or Windows distro? It is, yeah, it is kind of difficult. You have to get it into developer mode and bypass all this stuff. It's doable. And I might go grab my mom's Chromebook and see what we can do with it. So I think some people have been installing like the Chromium OS on it to extend the life. So there's things that you can do beyond the age of it. Yeah, I think we might be locked up here. I may try a do-over on this. Now this window is here, but I don't think it. Let's see if I can get the mouse back. I think I might reboot the Chromebook again and see. It's not looking good, folks, just so you know, for this to work. Because I usually, we've gotten it to work on Intel machines. And sometimes I found like a good reboot of the whole system here helps. Now, I'm also not running the beta channel. So we're running on the production channel for Chrome OS. So if we switch it to the developer channel, we might have better luck, because that tends to be a little bit more bleeding edge. But we'll give this another shot, and then if not, we'll reboot it. Oh, there we go. Something's happening. Something's happening, or it just disappeared. Actually, it just closed out. Yeah, let's reboot one more time. And let's see what happens here. So we'll shut her down and reboot her. All right. Yeah, it's doing something. There we go. Let's shut it down. Yeah, the fans are not loud on this, but they're definitely on more than I would like. And it could just be because we're doing all this Linux stuff, and that's, you know, a little bit more of a heavy lift, as they say. Okay, let's get back into this. All right, we're back. So let's go back to, and I think it might have installed an icon for us. Let's take a look. We may have to get back into Steam again. Back to our Linux apps here. Yeah, it looks like it. We got to push it through Steam. So we'll pop back into Steam. Question about whether or not this laptop was released today. No, I just got it in. So I just like to, you know, when I'm testing stuff now, if I'm sitting here testing stuff, I just go live, because it's always good to get some feedback from all of you. So it's kind of fun to do it that way. Yeah, that's the neat thing about these things. They kind of fade to white. They fade out with like a little color thing. Yeah, so what I might have to try here is I may have to put it on the developer channel and kind of repeat everything we just did, and it's a whole big to-do. So I'm hoping to avoid a whole big to-do, but we'll see what happens here if I can't get it to work on this mode. Typically, I'm able to get this to work on the regular retail channel here, but sometimes things act up on you. And I think the mouse weirdness could be a video issue, and it could be that these Ryzen chips need the developer channel to get that GPU connection to work. So that's something to consider if this doesn't boot up this time. And to do that, I want to get all my other testing done first, so I'm going to probably have to come back to this if it doesn't load up here, because usually this game does run. And David here runs, does a lot of stuff on his Pixelbook. Linux, Android apps, and Windows. Got it all. Yeah, so you can coax them. And the Pixelbook's nice. Is that the original Pixelbook, David? And yeah, Mark, I share your pain on this one. I do. When I was a kid, I would spend a lot of time just like futzing with stuff. And in fairness, it was things never worked right. Even if you were doing things properly, they didn't work right. So it's true. At least I get paid to try to figure this stuff out on your behalf. Yeah, so I think we're going to have to switch modes on this and put it into like one of the developer channels. And when I do that, that will, I think, require me to reload everything. So we'd have to go through the whole process here again. So that might be something we'll come back to. But I'm trying to find like a good use case as to why the Ryzen is important versus an Intel machine, for example. And the use case is going to be on the graphical side. So I want to find some examples of how a Chromebook benefits from a Ryzen processor that does have a much faster onboard GPU versus Intel, at least based on what we've seen from Intel Chromebooks so far. I have a... So David's got the second generation Pixelbook. I have the Pixelbook Go upstairs that, in full disclosure, Google sent us to review a while back. And that's the computer my daughter uses for some of her remote schooling stuff. And that's a nice machine. And by the way, that's a fanless Intel machine. Not great for games. It does run Linux, but it's dealing with the Intel GPU, and you've got all the thermal issues to think about. But it's nice. And Bert here says, look at the long list of, yeah, so you can see all the games that I buy and never play. And there's a good amount here that are compatible, it looks like, on this Chromebook. So if I go back to the library list here, yeah, I don't think we're going to see this boot up. Just trying to see if there's anything that is different than what we usually look at. Yeah, I think, how did I get Warhammer? I don't remember buying that one. Battlezone. Geez, I got a bunch of stuff here I don't even remember buying. So Flat Out 3 is on here too. I know I got that one. But it looks like it's just kind of stuck there. So I think I got to go to developer mode here to really get the most out of this. That might be something we end up doing. So Dom has some good insight here. Just bought, had an Asus C434. Tried to use Chrome OS exclusively. Bought an M1 MacBook and it's a world apart. Yeah. No, Apple's really got something here. I think it's, I have a feeling that Apple's going to grow market share as more people start talking about these MacBooks and it gets out there more. And if they can meet the quantity demands, I think they're going to pick up some market share. No question. So here's a good basic Chromebook question. I did a video. If you look, it's my Chromebook 101 for 2020 video. You could do a lot with a Chromebook now. They're not as limited as they used to be. This is like a bleeding edge activity that we're trying to do here, so it doesn't always work. But because you can run Linux, because you can run Android apps, and because it's got the Chrome stuff built in, like I said, I think these things are really useful as a simple computer that can be a little less simple if you need it to be. But as Mark Dell says, they can't run Rocket League. Yeah, I think, and let me try one other one. Let's close this out. Something that's quick to install. I'm going to put, gosh, I can't see anything. The screen's so tiny. I'm going to put, let's see if I can get something else to run on here. I had, I could have sworn that, whatchamacallit runs on here, Shovel Knight. So I've run it before on Chromebooks, but I'm not seeing it on my list of compatible games. But it could just be that it's under the unplayed section, so I've got to figure this out. But yeah, this thing is like totally frozen, and I can't get it to stop. So we're going to do one more reboot here, and we're going to power off. Yeah, so I'm going to have to put this into developer mode and see if I can figure this out. So where we've had some analysis here, it feels like Apple's cutting into its margins to make huge SoCs with all kinds of accelerators. It could be that. I have a feeling they're making more money now because they're not having to, they actually had, they had some R&D costs that they had to sink in. But I would venture to say that if you were to look at the silicon, it's probably, they're making so much money on the iPhone that a lot of that chip design is done on the iPhone side, and they just kind of upscale it, or whatever the right term is. So I think they're making more money now on the Mac than they were before. And if anything, it accelerates the development of the mobile side of things, perhaps, too. This is a good question from Tech Nerd that I will investigate, which is whether or not you can run the 4K version of Netflix on it. I will check on that. This does support 4K output, but through the HDMI, but the screen here is 1080p. You won't get HDR though, so that might be an impediment. But this is the Android app running on the Chrome operating system. And I think I can go over to, and by the way, you can also download stuff to the Chromebook to watch offline. And it's driving me crazy. I watched one of those true crime documentaries, and now it's all it suggests to me. And like, it's not healthy to watch this many true crime things. I have to stop because it's just not good, right? They just keep throwing these things at me. It's like, just stop, please. All right, so let's go over to the, let's see. There's usually a spot where it tells you. Bear with me here. I'm just looking through the. Okay. All right, so the open source licenses, where does it tell you the DRM version? So I'm not seeing that here. It might be somewhere else. We'll come back to that. All right, let me just get Steam up here one more time. We'll see if we can get Shovel Knight to run on here, and then we'll call it a day. Yeah, this is, you know, kind of par for the course these days, right? They all want you using their apps. So thoughts on Netflix and Vudu updating their DRM to now cap Chrome browser on Windows to 720p and Chrome OS to 1080p bitrate. Vudu does the same on the SD browser. Yeah, so that's why they, you know, that's why they want you to install their app, because they'd much rather have you in their app than anywhere else. All right, so we're gonna try one more thing, and then I got to get out of here and get the wrap-up uploaded. So let me finish this up here. Our mouse disappeared again. Yeah, so I have a feeling that this Ryzen support is not fully, like the GPU connection is not fully baked in the release version of Chrome. And I bet you that if we go to the developer branch of Chrome OS, we will see better performance. All right, so let's scroll down. I have a lot of games. Holy mackerel, look at all these games I have. So let's find Shovel Knight, because that's a good, like, simple game that tends to not be very problematic. And if the GPU side isn't working, we would see it here also. And we'll go ahead and install that. All right, let that download. Let's take a second for that to come up. So Jack wants to know, which USB stick would I recommend for reliability? I like the SanDisk ones. They're not the fastest, though. There's another one that I got from Kingston that's pretty good. If you're looking for a stick, I actually prefer to use those portable SSDs because I found them to be really useful. And they're super fast. It's just that you have a cable and a drive to deal with. But I do like the portable SSDs a lot. The Samsung, the SanDisk, the Samsung, all the major brands are good for that. And like I said, there's a Kingston drive that's pretty. It's a stick that's pretty powerful. That one works pretty well too. Yeah, so we're definitely dealing with some issues with the Ryzen drivers here on the Chromebook and getting these games to work. Because this game would always boot up on the Windows, on the Intel Chromebooks, no problem, once we enable the GPU stuff. So yeah, we're going to have to spend a little bit more time with this. Yeah, and this is the thing. We thankfully have that fiber connection. That makes a big difference here. All right. Well, everybody, I've got some more homework to do on this one. And what I want to make clear is that the things I'm doing with it are not the typical Chromebook activities, but the things that more advanced users may want to know about, and some gamers too. So what I'm going to do is get a lot of my testing done on this thing, and then I'm going to move it over to the developer build. So we'll spend a little bit more time with this, and then see if maybe they have updated drivers on the developer build that makes it work better. So that is something we'll try out. Unfortunately, Mark Dell, I don't think I have Rogue. So I'm going to come back, and I got to run anyhow because I got to get the wrap-up uploaded. I've got that 5:30 appointment for my haircut that I want to get done, but I will definitely try that out. And Mark, if you want to send me a link to Rogue, is that on Steam? If not, send me a link to it, and I think we'll be back with this probably tomorrow or the next day. So there you go. All right, everybody. I am going to head out for now so I can get tonight's video uploaded. And then, let me pull up my image file here. And then we'll be back. I'll probably stream tomorrow. I got to do, I'm going to try to shoot a video tomorrow. And I'll look for that Rogue game there, Mark Dell. So I'm going to shoot a video tomorrow. And then after I finish that shoot, I will be back with more fun stuff. But yeah, it's always good to test this stuff out and figure it out. Because I know, because when I saw this, I have not yet seen a Ryzen-based Chromebook, and I know what people are going to want to know about it. So that's why I am eager to try to get all this stuff to work. And Mark sent me the link to Rogue here, so let me pull that up real quick. Oh, it's like the original Rogue and like all character-based. Okay, yeah, that should totally run. But we want to really put this Ryzen processor through its paces. So I'm going to do my regular testing on it, and then we'll switch it into developer mode and kind of go from there. But that is what we're doing. All right, everybody. I got a jet, but thank you all for tuning in, and I will be back again before you know it, so stay tuned. And we're going to have, on Thursday, they're going to land that thing on Mars at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so I thought that might be a fun stream to do, just to kind of watch that together. So be on the lookout for that. And it'll be cool. So that'll be Thursday. I'll probably start, check my calendar. I'm pretty sure I'm not going anywhere. Like I'm really going anywhere. Yeah, I think it lands at 3 Earth time, whatever time it is on Mars. So maybe we start up around 2:30 or so on Thursday and just kind of watch that together. That's going to be fun. And I interviewed one of the engineers on the Mars rover landing system that this new rover is using as well. So that might be kind of fun. So yeah, that'll be on Thursday. Be kind of cool. And I'll do, yeah, so we'll put that on Amazon also. There's a lot of neat like Mars-based stuff that we can link that to. So that'd be kind of fun. All right, cool. So I will be back before you know it. And be on the lookout for tonight for our update video on Starlink. That's going up in about 3 hours. So be on the lookout, 6:45 p.m. Set your notifications, and you'll see it. And we'll go from there. And yes, everyone's been buying maple syrup from Josh. Actually, he's done really well this past week. So I want to thank you all. He will thank you also, because he got a lot. It was good. It was almost like his Christmas volume from that video. And they're still coming because the video's still doing well. So it's good stuff. All right, so be on the lookout. We'll be back with this soon. And thank you all for tuning in. Catch you in a little bit. Bye-bye.